Immigration, the Jerusalem attack, and Gruber-Gate. I'm Mike Adekunle, and this is the Square Circle. Hello and welcome to the Square Circle. I'm your host, Mike Adekunle. Joining us today are Gregory Clay of gdclay.com, Nick Morpus of Liberty Minds, communications consultants Don Owens, and writer and editor Karina Rollins. Welcome everyone. President Obama made big news on immigration this week. Last night, he outlined his executive order that would shield millions of illegal immigrants from deportation. Republicans criticized the move, saying that it is illegal and undermines the rule of law. Don Owens, did the president poison the well on immigration, as the Republicans warned?
Mike, that's an interesting question, and I think there's an obvious answer. The answer is no. What the president is looking for is action, and he hadn't received any action from Congress and the last 4 years. And when I say that on the left side of the table, I mean he didn't receive action from Democrats or Republicans. So the president did what a president's elected to do, show leadership. The only issue I have with the president's announcement last night that I think it came about 8 months too late. It's obvious Democrats, in an effort to try to win, or in this case lose, votes in the election we just had, behind closed scenes encouraged the president to delay this announcement. That was a mistake. The president should have done this back in April, May, or June, when he had, I might add, a number of people showing up, just a few dozen here or there, protesting at his speeches, demanding action. And I think that was the negative impact that may have hurt Democrats in the fall. And I also want to point out, I don't think the president should have done this because we would have had more Spanish-speaking and Hispanic voters supporting Democrats in the fall. I think you win and lose election based on the issues and what you stand for. I think he should have done this because it was the right thing to do, and he should have done it in April. But he hasn't poisoned the well. I think conservatives poisoned the well 6 years ago when he was first elected.
Don, I have to ask you, this begs the question, why in the world did the president then not do it during the first 2 years he was in office when he had a Democratic majority in the House and in the Senate? So I think you're missing the point when you say he should have done it in April. He should have done it 6 or 5 years ago.
I agree
Why
with
not
that.
then?
He should have done it earlier then, but he had two things to deal with. The legacy of George W. Bush, and an economy coming out of a recession.
How was it George Bush's fault that
because
Obama did not make this immigration measure his priority? That was Obama's choice, was it not?
The economy was coming out of recession. We needed to pass more pressing things.
Like Obamacare?
Yes.
But
laying the foundation for Obamacare. And I can tell you, I worked on the Hill at that time. We passed an energy bill. We started debate on the health care bill. That was the most important things at that time in making sure the economy righted itself.
You don't see anything cynical about this move on the president's part?
Not at all.
I mean, I listened to his speech last night, and actually a lot of it I did agree with in substance. I'm not fully on board with the conservative idea that we should start just deporting everybody. I don't think it's feasible. I don't think it's reasonable. I don't think it's realistic. However, what I have an issue with is the fact that he did go around Congress. Yes, the job of the president is to establish leadership. However, what we're doing is we're setting a precedent that we've been setting for decades now where the Congress sacrifices its power over to the executive branch. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 of the Constitution clearly gives the Congress power to establish rules of naturalization in the country. So when you have the president deciding to sidestep Congress, no matter how inefficient it may be, I would actually argue the inefficiency can be good for different reasons, but no matter how inefficient the Congress may be, the rule of law is still supposed to be the number one priority of the president, the Congress, and the judiciary branch. So if we're not going to follow the rule of law, why should we follow it when we have to declare war, when we have to enact any type of policy whatsoever? So I see this more as an issue of rule of law rather than the substance that he was giving last night.
Okay,
May I
well,
just
Greg,
say one quick thing? I think that was a very good point, but it is not a conservative issue to deport millions of people. I don't think that's anybody's calling for that, which is why this declaration, this executive action on Obama's part, actually isn't going to change very much. No one is calling for deportation of millions of people.
Plenty of people are calling for deportation. It was actually
There's no
biggest in
danger
the
of
20.
that. There's no danger of that happening. It's not going to happen.
It's two different
It's-
questions. In 4 of the 6 Republican debates in the last presidential election, many people in the audience, cheered on by folks on stage, called for the deportation, mass deportation of anyone in
Opinion
this
polls
Congress.
show that the majority of Americans don't want that. What that small audience did does not necessarily reflect the entire country.
I would agree with you. A majority of Americans disagree with
There we go.
Republicans.
But there will not be a comprehensive immigration plan as long as President Obama's in the White House, because the Republicans despise him so much, especially after what went down Thursday night, that they're angry, a lot of spite in the House, and you can see that they, of course, will block anything that he's going to try to do in his final 26 months in office. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with his appointees, i.e., Loretta Lynch.
Well, I mean,
Because they know, I mean, that there's, there won't be comprehensive immigration reform until he's gone.
Okay, I'd like to remind the audience that you can submit your questions to our guests through our website, www.publicsquare.net, and we'll answer as many questions as we can on air towards the end of the show. Now, this week also saw a horrific attack in Jerusalem. 2 Palestinian terrorists killed 5 Israelis on Tuesday before being shot and killed by Israeli police. The Palestinian terrorist group Hamas praised the attack, and the Palestinians were seen in the streets of Gaza celebrating. So, Karina Rollins, my question to you is, does this latest incident destroy any hope you had in there being any peace between Israel and Palestine?
It does not, because there was no hope. There hasn't been hope for a long time. Mike, you cannot squeeze water from a rock. I mean, it is, for decades this has been going on, and the latest example we had, look what happened in July. Unprovoked, Hamas starts raining rockets on the Israelis. They take it for weeks, then they finally retaliate, and then the whole world goes, berserk, claiming it's Israeli aggression. I mean, that is a myth. It is a lie. It is not Israeli aggression against the Palestinians. It is the Palestinians against the Israelis and people who watch the news and understand facts. No, that is true. There is no way to spin this. The peace process is exactly that, just a process. And it's phony through and through. I mean, 2 Palestinian Arab Muslims run into a synagogue to slaughter and cut down as many Jews as they can, and the president of this country calls on both sides to work out their differences.
And 3 of them were Americans, right?
Any decent-minded person needs to be offended by that.
Right.
The peace process is dead. There will be no peace
Right.
until the Palestinians stop trying to murder the Jews.
well, I'm going to actually agree with you that I don't believe that I was on the show a couple months ago and we were talking about the same issue between Israel and Palestine, and I don't think there's really any hope for peace. I mean, I'm kind of on the side of just let them work it out. It's their deal. There's nothing really we can do at this point to really stop it from happening. And I agree with you that it's senseless violence. It's a terrible thing that happened. I mean, even but I'm going to disagree with you here that I don't believe that Hamas represents all of Palestine. Not all Palestinians agree with this. In fact, President Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinian Authority quote said of the killing, he said, "We condemn the killings of worshippers at the synagogue in Jerusalem and condemn acts of violence no matter their source." I don't believe all of Palestinians want this.
He
I
was
believe
pushed to say that. He has defended terrorism again and again.
Hamas
or
does not
refuse to
represent
condemn
all
it.
of Palestine. Not all the Palestinians want war with Israel, and
Just
not all
about
the
all
Israel.
of them do.
How can you really
Is
say
that another
that?
public opinion poll you saw?
No, this is what this is what the Palestinians do. Whenever a Jew is murdered, we also had seen in recent weeks Palestinians driving cars into people waiting at bus and train stations,
right.
Two
killing
incidents of that, yes.
babies. The response every single time is people dancing in the streets. They're distributing candy. They're happy. The people, the Palestinians
They do that
who
in Israel too.
no, they don't.
They certainly do.
Israelis
They certainly
do not celebrate in
Yes,
the
they
streets
do.
when an Israeli kills a Palestinian baby, which doesn't even happen, by the way.
That is selective memory, Karina.
Excuse
You have to
me?
know that. You have to know that.
What planet
both
are you
sides,
living- that
Both
is-
sides do it.
That is not true.
There are
It is
documented
true.
When
videotaped
Jews
atrocities
kill
on both sides.
Palestinians, they are put in jail or they are condemned. Israelis are not dancing in the streets when innocent civilians are killed. That is a lie.
I would
It's a
say
lie.
this.
Yeah, but what the Israelis are doing is, many Arabs work in construction, on Israeli sites.
The housing.
Yeah, housing, exactly. And the Israelis are saying, no Arabs,
Can you blame them?
No, I can't. In this country, it would be called segregation, or it would be called institutionalized racism. And
How about self-protection?
right? That's the other side of it.
That's what South Africa said about apartheid.
that's-
too.
That's
I
not a
remember that.
comparable.
That's what the
in any
Israelis
way,
are
shape,
saying
or
is
form.
self-preservation.
It's just not even comparable.
And also that they haven't, they refuse to send the dead bodies back to the Palestinians, the two cousins, and they're also going to level the homes of these guys.
What's wrong with that?
Right. Yeah, I mean, Israel has to protect itself, right? Am I right or wrong?
I agree. Israel should have the right to protect itself. But both sides are happy when one side is able to stick
Destroy
it to
the
the
other.
other.
Point the finger
Yes.
back.
The
Well, Mike-
Israelis do not go and attack innocent Palestinians or Muslims or Arabs ever. It doesn't happen. It is the Palestinians who
Provoke.
periodically, whenever they have enough material, start shooting rockets into Israel.
Well, I believe
That is not the Israelis who ever start
That is
that,
an example
ever.
I believe that is overly generalized. But getting back to your original question,
Give me an
I don't
example
think-
where the Israelis started out of the blue killing Palestinians.
the Israeli military forces frequently go into Palestine looking for legitimate criminals,
What's-
find those criminals,
right, legitimate
kill them,
criminals.
execute them, or bring them back for trial, and end
what's
up
wrong with
killing
that?
innocent citizens in the process. Happens
Not on
consistently.
purpose.
And
The
doesn't matter.
Americans- yes, it does matter.
It matters a lot.
Collateral
You can't
damage is
stick a
different
knife
from
in my back
personally
9
targeting.
inches, pull it out 7 inches, and say we're making
Excuse
progress.
me,
That's what you're saying.
You are
there. It's
equating
not
two things
intentional.
that are not equating.
But I'm not
equatable.
generalizing as you did with your example.
I didn't generalize
The original
the way it
question.
is.
My original
I think,
question you were
I
gonna
think that I
make a
think
statement.
the peace process is not destroyed, but is certainly flawed. And a point I've made on this show many times: the United States can't lead this peace process any longer. And if the Arab world truly supports the Palestinians as they say, we need to see more leadership in the peace process, as it's called, from Arab states like Saudi Arabia, Iran, who rush to the Palestinians' defense anytime Israel attacks or does anything there. But the Arab countries
You
don't
want them to
step up
condemn
in the
the
leadership.
violence.
I agree with
want
you
them
on
to
that.
step up in the leadership role so that we can step back.
Yeah.
Because every
Yeah.
time these incidents flare up, it becomes a question of defense
United
support,
States getting
how much
involved.
money. Yes, and it's not working.
Okay, so finally, MIT professor Jonathan Gruber has been the center of unwanted attention this week. More videos of the Obamacare architect have emerged, and they further corroborate last week's revelation of Gruber's dismissing the intelligence of American voters and admitting that the law was deliberately deceptive. Meanwhile, Democrats have been attempting to distance themselves from Gruber despite having praised him in the past. Okay, so Nick, is this scandal as big as Obamacare's opponents have made it out to be?
I would say it is kind of big, but I looked at it when I first heard the quote, it really was of no shock to me. My issue with this is this does not just stop at Obamacare. This is Washington, D.C.'s, the elite of Washington, D.C. This is their mentality of the American people for pretty much any legislation that they pass. They look at the American people as a bunch of uneducated, ignorant individuals, whereas the people in Washington, D.C. are these elite, really brilliant people. I mean, if they're so brilliant, why are we having so many problems that we have? But yes, I would say it is pretty big. I mean, you have the issue of Nancy Pelosi when she said, we have to pass a law to find out what is in it. I mean, Federalist 62, written by James Madison, is very telling as to how this type of law is passed, thousands and thousands of pages of regulations. But he said, it will be of little avail to the people that the laws are made by men of their own choice, if the laws be so voluminous that they cannot be read, or so incoherent that they cannot be understood. And I think this perfectly sums up how this law was passed and how it has turned out so far. I mean, we have a website that 3 years in the making, was not able to work getting off the ground. You have issues with people losing their health care coverage, even though it was promised over and over and over again that it would not go away, that you'd be able to keep your doctor and keep your plan. Doesn't matter, you'd be able to keep it, but that never came, to pass. And I just think his comments are very telling as to the mindset of Washington.
Yeah, this is huge. I mean, you can tell just by watching TV. All you have to do is compare and contrast the 3 cable networks. Fox is all over this. Okay? You know that. Fox is all over. I mean, every day. I mean, while CNN and MSNBC are so concerned about Ferguson, like they are obsessed with Ferguson, what's Fox doing? They're talking about Mr. Gruber. It's all Gruber all the time. And that's when you know something is big, because it's obvious CNN is ignoring this. And it's obvious that MSNBC...
They continue to carry water for the president.
Yeah, which is in the back pocket of the Obama administration. That's MSNBC, by the way, in the back pocket. It's true. It's so obvious that, that they are letting it kind of slide, kind of pass.
Yeah.
And the TV coverage... The disparaging TV coverage tells you everything you need to know.
May I just add to that? That is true, and what Nick said, I believe, is clear, right? How politicians treat us as a population. But one thing that I just wanted to add to that, which I think makes it worse than ever, that it was the deception was part and parcel of getting it passed.
Of the process.
It was not just the usual, we know better than you do. I mean, that's arrogant and patronizing and offensive to anybody
that's
who's...
a democratic way.
But the fact that it was specifically designed that way, that we now know that it was not just incompetence and bumbling, which would be bad enough, but it was a direct lie. The president told us, if you like your insurance, you can keep it. If you like your doctor, you can keep it. The deception was part of the process. That is really what's unforgivable.
I mean, we can say this about any type of legislation. I mean, the Patriot Act, the Iraq War, the NSA, the issues with, talking about, we're not spying on you. Oh, wait, never mind, we are. Sorry about that. And, I mean, this is just how that they treat the American people. They treat them like as a bunch of cattle that they have to be herded. And, here's this piece of legislation. It's going to help you in all these things. Well, what about this part and this part and this part? No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. We'll deal with that later. We had to pass it first.
Well, Mike, I want to make 2 points. I think, number one, for everyone on the show, we should be very careful about how we characterize elites, because a lot of people watching the show may look at us as elites and wonder how close we are to the glitterati ourselves up here, talking heads on television.
Fair enough.
We're the honest elites.
Okay. That's
said everyone ever.
I will identify myself with that. Thank you.
I'm a beautiful elite. Yeah. I'll admit it.
A second point I want to make is, when it comes to DC media and certainly national media, whenever I tend to believe, since I do PR for a living, once you attach "gate" to the word to anything, it's jump the shark right then. I don't think this is going to be a story outside of Darrell Issa's office and Fox News in the next 60 days. And besides, the precursor to this gentleman's remarks, and I'll say this on the side, progressives should do a better job of keeping anyone in our party with a PhD, and a number of people who appear on the show have PhDs, away from cameras, just have them doing research. Don't speak out loud. But I will say, I believe firmly, Obamacare is working. It's 9.5 million people being served, including one who's a relative of mine and another friend who drives a truck. They write their checks for their premiums every month. They're going to health care. They're not going to the emergency room for care. I know this personally. And you know what?
We know it works. Of others who lost their insurance.
Well, you know what? I know it works because a Republican governor from the great state of Massachusetts, Mitt Romney, the last Republican president or candidate, helped design it and employed Mr. Gruber. And if Romney, that Republican, had stopped it there, we wouldn't even have heard of Gruber.
I'm not a Romney fan. My question is, what about those 3 to 4 million people who have lost their insurance?
The 3 to 4 million people, 3 to 3 to
And
4
then on top
million
of that,
people.
I would have to address also the people, the tons of people who signed up for coverage. Which I mean, the Obamacare is, the Obama administration is more than willing to tote the numbers on that, but then they don't want to talk about the amount of people who have not paid their
And
premium.
they should, because the responsibility does not lie with the administration. It lies with companies like Health South and Blue Cross Blue Shield, who set these customers up so that they would lose their policies and their health care coverage, so that because they stepped up the quality of these policies, and that's what Obamacare was.
Well,
there,
the thing
bring
is,
up the
though, a lot of
quality
these
healthcare.
people, some of these people who lost their policies were happy with what they had.
Yeah, before.
I mean, health insurance was not meant to be for every single doctor's visit,
Right.
and not for every single, broken nail and cracked bone. It was supposed to be for emergencies, and a lot of people had those types of plans, catastrophic care plans, and they were not able to keep them, and they had to end up paying more, higher
Much
premiums
more.
for bigger plans
Like
that they
40,
didn't want.
50%.
That's where I would disagree.
And
with your
many of those
characterization.
millions who do have, that was just a shift to Medicaid. Many of the newly enrolled, they were just shifted to Medicaid. These numbers are doctored
The
from beginning
Democrats are
to
going
end.
to
I
pay
don't
for
believe
this.
that at all.
The Democrats are going to pay for this.
Legislatively, or what? How are they going to pay?
Any kind of way you
I think
can
they're
think
going to pay
of.
for it politically.
Any way you
No,
can
the
think of.
American
They're going to pay for
taxpayer
this.
will pay for it,
No.
literally.
They're going to pay for this big
No.
time.
Give us a for instance. Don't
Well-
generalize that. How are they going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for it?
I agree that they're going to pay for it, but they're going to pay for it politically. Not within Obama's presidency, because the Republicans, they'd be stupid to try and try and put through another repeal bill
Yeah.
right now. It's
Oh,
stupid.
that's going to happen.
It's going to happen, but they'd be stupid to do it because, one, the president's just going to veto it, and all it is showboating at this point because they know he's going to veto it. I mean, yes, we get it. I want it gone too. We're not going to agree on that, but I want it gone too. But it's not going to go right now. So the smart thing to do would, of course, be to focus on things you can win on. But I feel like in the next election, in the next presidential election, and this is just my opinion, that the Democrats are going to pay for this at the polls,
Big time.
in the political process.
Definitely.
So.
Well, they
Definitely.
paid 2 weeks ago in the elections.
Right.
Well, I
exactly.
would say that the thing with the elections was more of people being
Karina.
frustrated with the Democrats than loving the Republicans.
Yeah.
Karina.
I
Oh,
think-
they don't love the Republicans.
They don't.
I didn't
So,
say that.
yeah, so, yeah,
They're
I agree with-
frustrated with the
yeah,
Democrats.
Democrats.
They're frustrated with
Temporarily.
the policies and the
In
way
2
that
years,
the
they'll
whole
be
country is being
frustrated
run.
with the Republicans again, by the way, I believe. And I don't think a Republican president is a shoo-in at all.
But we're-
Everything is cyclical.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's
Everything
all
is cyclical.
cyclical.
No, a Republican
Exactly.
is a shoe-in for 2016.
I don't think so.
I don't think it's a
I
shoo-in,
guarantee
but
you,
there's
the next president will be Republican. I guarantee you.
I
I
think
don't know.
Hillary is
You know,
going to be the
you know,
next president.
no, forget about Hillary. I guarantee the next president will be Republican.
Are we making bets on this?
Oh yeah, I bet you $100
I'll throw
right
out a
now.
box of
I don't
credit
think it
cards.
Yeah,
matters.
I would bet you $100. I would bet you Ben Franklin.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter either way.
That's right. Ben Franklin is in the house right now.
$100 on Rand Paul winning the
This
presidency.
guy is
How about
crazy.
that?
If he would just shut up, he could have had $10 or $20 million.
Who?
Mr. Gruber. But no, he had to get on everybody's tape and
Because
stuff.
he lost his state
now
contracts.
there's a big backlash. Now Nancy Pelosi all of a sudden doesn't know the cat. Even
Well,
though she
she
talked about the cat
forgets a lot
4 or
of
5,
things.
yeah, right. She forgot all right. Even though she talked about the cat 4 or 5 years ago, praising this cat to no end. Now all of a sudden, I don't know this dude. I mean, come on. And now there's word that Michigan dropped this dude, North Carolina dropped this dude. And consulting.
Well, of course,
and
he's
Vermont
feeling
dropped
the-
the dude,
he's
and
feeling
he
the
had at
political
least
backlash.
$400,000
The funny thing is,
contracts
though-
with at least with all 3 of those states, at least $400,000.
Look at that.
The
Look
cat
at that,
can't
though.
be quiet.
People are losing.
You know?
The guy's losing his job for telling the truth.
Yeah, he is. You're right.
He did tell the truth.
You're right. He's
I mean,
losing
God
his job for
forbid,
telling the
God
truth.
forbid he tell the truth. But I mean, I'm this,
but
this is
but
just
my
how the
point is that if
process
it's about
works.
the bread, the cat should have shut up. It was about the bread. See where I'm coming from?
All right. So, okay, I think it's time we take some questions from our viewers. So I have one from Sarah Edwards, and she wants to know, do you think it was disrespectful of the major networks not to air the president's address on immigration?
Very disrespectful.
Don
It's
also.
very disrespectful.
Very disrespectful.
I read an article before I came here tonight.
Oh, we agree. I don't
That an
believe it.
incredible. I know it is rare on a
I'm
Friday.
listening.
It must be snowing outside right now. A lot of local stations, a higher percentage than were anticipated, actually showed the president's speech defying the national networks. I think whenever a president speaks, it should be broadcast on television, especially when you consider so much that's going on behind closed doors in government. And I think, if anything, we need to broadcast it so folks can't say, "Oh, I didn't know he was doing that." So I think it was incredibly disrespectful. I think it sets a tone for the next 2 years, and I think the president has a lot to surmount. I hope Republicans will come to the rescue.
For one thing, you do it out of respect for the presidency. You know, even if you don't like the cat in the House, the White House, you know.
Obama does give an awful lot of speeches, though, when he's gotten lots of airtime.
You know,
so
do it out of respect, you know, for the office, for the presidency.
Okay, so we also have a question from Frederick Watson. Do the Palestinians want peace, or do they want victory?
I don't think either side wants peace. I don't really think either side wants peace.
Israel doesn't want peace?
They want peace through victory.
Israel doesn't want peace.
Both sides. I wouldn't say it's just Israel. It's both sides. Neither of them really want peace. They only want peace if their side is getting at least most of what they want.
Yes, and what victory for the Palestinians look like is destruction of the state of Israel and the death of every Jew. And yes, it is the rare Palestinian who does not believe that. Have you not seen?
I don't think it's a rare Palestinian.
But it is. I'm not making this up. I mean, don't take my word for it. Read the opinion polls.
Well, no, it's not. I'd like to see the
and there's a
statistics that
reason,
show that every single
there are statistics. Go Google them.
Majority of Palestinians
and there's a
want this
reason
war.
why. It is part of the culture. Surely you all have seen the videos. If not, go look them up. Don't take my word for it. Starting in kindergarten, the innocent children are indoctrinated to kill Jews. Literally. Google it. Watch the videos. You see darling little children dancing in circles with pictures of Mickey Mouse chanting, and you think, oh, how cute, they're singing nursery rhymes. What are they singing?
And ISIS
Kill
is doing
the
the
Jews.
same thing.
Kill the Jews. Little boys are dressed up as Hamas fighters holding guns. You cannot tell me that this does not completely ruin the psyche of a person, of a human being.
And ISIS is doing the same thing. ISIS is doing the same thing with children.
Group of people.
Of course it does. Every single one of them is raised that way.
Videos like that, and we
Al
know
Qaeda does not raise little children.
But ISIS is
they
doing it
They
too.
operate madrasas throughout the Middle
Al
East.
Qaeda does not raise little children.
Sure they do.
The Palestinians are an insular society where every single child is raised
Muslim
to hate
clerics
and to
operate
kill.
madrasas throughout the Middle East, where some young children are taught tenets like that, and it's obvious Al Qaeda fed off of that to attract soldiers and people to their movement. But Al Qaeda, as
That has
proven through
nothing to
the
do
war
with
on
what I
terror-
said.
No, I'm trying to prove you writ large, because Al Qaeda is larger than the Palestinian.
But we're talking about the
as far as
Palestinians.
reach.
We're talking about the
In that,
insular Palestinian
the
culture.
impact and attraction of Al Qaeda does not apply to all Palestinian or all Muslim people. And I think the most important
It applies to almost
the
all
most
of them,
important
yes.
people here that you can see characterized by this entire conversation is that America should never be ruled as a theocracy, and that is the root of the conflict. There, it is a religious conflict.
It is Muslim hatred for Jews. You are correct.
Okay, so
go.
now it's time for the most underreported story of the week, and
I'll go first.
like to start.
Okay. Jack Johnson plays for the Columbus Blue Jackets, NHL, National Hockey League. This dude signed a 7-year, $30 million contract when he was playing for the Kings, the Los Angeles Kings. Then he was later sent to the Columbus Blue Jackets. And the process, when he got his $30 million contract, he got rid of his real financial advisors and agents and turned his financial matters over to his parents. Okay? So, logic says, oh, my parents, they got my back. They're there for me. They got me. They're going, they protected me, and as I was growing up, and they're going to protect my $30 million contract. I don't think so. His parents took his bread, okay, and he basically gave his parents power of attorney so they could get the money, retrieve the money out of his accounts anytime they wanted. And his mother was doing things like buying a house in Manhattan Beach, California, and with a bunch of renovations. They were buying all these plane tickets.
It's like, thanks for asking me.
Right. They were taking out all these loans against their son's contract.
Ugh,
You know, and suppose they took out as many as 18 different loans,
poor guy.
and he didn't know all this was going on. Because again, it's your parents, and he's had to file for bankruptcy, and supposedly he's in $10 million debt. Creditors are after him, and he apparently has assets. He says of 50,000. He of course got rid of his parents as financial advisors and getting real financial advisors, and it's just a really sad case in which family structure can destroy you.
Okay, Karina, do you have a story?
I would say the most underreported story of the week is also the most underreported story of the month, maybe even of the year.
Yeah, decade.
In all this wretchedness that surrounds us, at home, abroad, war, disaster, destruction, humankind does something amazing, something not wretched. After 10 years of flight, a probe, a space probe, lands on a comet.
Oh.
Billions? Gazillions? Do we know how far away this is? Light years away. This is a true shining accomplishment of mankind. What do we hear about? Kim Kardashian's shiny buttocks
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about the shirt the guy was wearing.
and the shirt the guy was wearing.
Yeah.
Now,
Gotta love it,
I am speechless.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I'm about to go online and order myself one of those shirts. It's fashionable.
It's really a sign our news is not news, it's entertainment.
It is.
Right. It's all about ratings.
It's sensational.
You have to get the ratings.
Like, oh my gosh, sexist
Right.
shirt. Hey, we landed on a
Right.
comment, but no, sexist
Yeah.
shirt.
No big deal. It took 10 years to do it.
But PublicSquare.net,
Hey.
this is real news.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
right.
real news
That's
right
right.
here. This is
Remember
hard
that.
stuff.
Right, this is for real people.
Okay, so
Well, I just recently covered a story. I had a lot of fun writing it. A Utah lawmaker, I can't remember, Mark something. I can't remember his name for the life of me. But he's looking to cut off the water supply to the NSA data facility outside of Salt Lake City because of his objections to the invasive invasions of privacy by the NSA, the Fourth Amendment abuses. I found the story so entertaining because I'm glad even if it's something as small as shutting off water, we're doing something about this, I hope. And it's good to see that someone's willing to do whatever it takes to try and curb this type of abuse of power. So I thought that was actually pretty underreported, and I kind of giggled a couple times while I was writing it, because I can just imagine all the guys at the NSA working there, and they're like, one of the guys, hey Bob, keep an eye on the computer, make sure you're watching George there. I'm going to go to the bathroom. He goes to the bathroom, finds out the toilet won't flush, Like, so I mean,
Hard to snoop with no water.
yeah. Hey, you get thirsty out there.
Yeah.
Tough job, but hey.
and Don.
My most underreported story of the week is dedicated as an only child to my first appearance here after the elections. And I think the most underreported story is sort of the end of last week, beginning of this week, and that is Senator Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts was elected and promoted into leadership within the Democratic Party. And I think it's in just 4 weeks after an election where 5 of the 8 Democrats who lost Senate races lost between 100,000 votes or less, which is pitiful considering we have a president in the White House. You shouldn't lose races like that by less than 100,000 votes. And it's a signal through Elizabeth Warren's ascension that the true influence, the true good that can be done, the true power that can be done for the good of all working people in this country exists in the Congress, not in the White House. Democrats need to stop chasing the presidency like a dog chases its tail and get more senators, good senators like Senator Warren, into leadership positions. Senator Warren should be the majority leader one day. She should not be aspiring to the presidency. And also, Democrats, stop wishing that Jon Stewart would run for president. Republicans elect policy-based politicians.
Or host
They
Meet the
don't
Press.
They don't elect comedians.
Sometimes
And
they elect
Yeah.
policy.
Remember Pat Paulson back in the 60s?
And then you got people like
Yeah.
Romney.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, that's
all
right.
right. So that's all for this week. Thanks for watching the Square Circle, and we'll see you next week.